My name is Ryan Smith. I am the Wellness Program Administrator with Employee Development and Wellness Services, and I'm a registered dietitian by trade. Today, as we are preparing the meal here and setting everything up, we're going to be making use of the WebEx chat feature, which people already did there. I saw some people putting some things in the chat. So if you have any questions, any comments, anything you want to share about the recipes or ideas for ingredient substitutions, or maybe there's a step that needs clarification, please make use of that chat feature, and we will be sure to address all those comments and questions at the end of today's presentation. We're also going to be recording the meeting so that you'll be able to watch it again later in case you want to follow alongside me while you cook, or if you want to share it with a colleague who may have missed it. So for today's recipe, we're going to be making black bean queso wraps. I am a big fan of Mexican cuisine, so anything that is involving beans and cheese and peppers pretty much always gets an A+ in my book. This is a really nice recipe because it's very, very simple to make. If you are practiced making it, you can honestly make it in about 10 to 15 minutes. So it's great for a quick lunch. You can also meal prep and make several of these in advance. So there's a lot of flexibility here, which I like. We're going to talk through each ingredient gradually as we use it in the recipe, but I do want to highlight the equipment that you'll need today. We are going to be making use of a cutting board and a knife. In terms of cooking, I'm going to use a medium to large size skillet here and just the burner on my stovetop. You actually can cook part of today's recipe with a panini or a sandwich press if you want. I actually don't have one of those, so we're going to be doing a simpler option for those of you at home who may also not have one of those and you want to just keep it simple on the stovetop. Otherwise, the only other thing I'll really be doing is using a microwave to heat up our tortillas. That just softens them a little bit so we can fold them nicely, but you can also do that on the stovetop. So in terms of equipment, pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and get started by preparing some of our veggies here. The first thing I'm going to do is we're going to cut up our bell pepper. Now I'm using a big bright red bell pepper today because we've got some yellow from the corn, we've got some green coming from the poblano pepper that we're going to be using today. So I thought it'd be fun to add some more color through the red. So for bell peppers, I've cut them a lot. I use them in a lot of recipes. My strategy is it's kind of an irregular shape. I want to cut it in a way that makes it easier to chop up. It's kind of a strange thing to tackle until you make your first couple cuts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the top and the bottom, and then I'll have a little tube that I can kind of unroll and make into a flat surface. So that first cut is just cutting the top of it off, just like that. And then we're going to turn it and basically do the same thing on the bottom side. Now, for now, I'm just going to set the top and bottom piece to the side. You can chop those up and use them. You can eat them raw, whatever you want to do with them. We now have the bell pepper with the inside there. We've got all the seeds and the pith, which is that white part of it. I'm just going to make 3 to 4 cuts to just sever the connection there, and we'll be able to pull that middle part right on out. And then, of course, we'll just discard this because this part's not really edible, so we'll just set it over here. Now I'm going to cut this in half. And what this does is it lets me flatten this out into a much more level and easy to work with surface. That way I'm not like having something rock around while I'm trying to cut it. So we're going to chop this up into small pieces. These are going into wraps, so I'm going to try to make the dice decently fine so that I can fold the tortilla easily. Whenever I make burritos, and what I'm going to do here is just cut this into vertical strips to start with. Whenever I make burritos or wraps or pita breads or anything like that, I have a tendency to overpack whatever I'm doing. I'm so excited about all the vegetables and all the filling that I'm putting in there that I tend to make it a little too big. So dicing things up into a finer size will be helpful for making sure everything's going to fit in the tortilla at the end of the day. So I'll talk through what I just did. I'm making vertical kind of matchstick shaped cuts going along those flat pepper pieces. And then once I've gone all the way through with that, I'm just taking my little matchsticks. I'm going to turn them 90 degrees like so. And then I'm going to make cuts going in the other direction to get a nice little dice here. All right, so those are all chopped up. We've got the bell pepper here. Now this recipe only calls for using about half of a bell pepper, meaning that these extra pieces that we cut off, you don't have to put into the recipe, but you are more than welcome to chop them up and add them in. More vegetables is certainly not going to hurt us. So the next thing we want to prepare is our poblano pepper here. So In terms of heat, these are a little more mild than a jalapeno. So if you've had jalapenos before, these are not quite as spicy as those. So nothing too crazy, but it does give it a little bit of heat, makes it a little fun to bite into. Whenever you are working with any sort of spicy pepper, always be cautious about touching your eyes after you've handled the pepper. When you get parts of the pepper on your hand, I do this all the time. I'll work with jalapenos and then I'll rub my eye or scratch something. And boy, does it not feel good when you get that in your eye. So typically after working with a pepper, you want to be very cautious. It's intelligent to wash your hands and make sure that you get that off of your hands or to wear gloves to prevent that from happening. I'm just going to be cautious today and not touch my eye after handling the pepper. So I'm going to cut this similar to how I cut the bell pepper. I'm going to cut just the top of it off. And then I'll come in here and cut the bottom off as well. Now, very similar to the bell pepper, we can see that little inside part with the seeds. The pith is that white part that's connected to the sides. And I'm going to go in and just make those little cuts to pull that middle piece out. Now, when you're working with jalapenos, when you're working with any sort of hot pepper, the pith, that white portion, is where the heat comes from. So if you'd like to, you can actually trim that out and reduce the spiciness of it. For this, it's a pretty mild pepper. I'm going to go ahead and keep it in, but I'll leave that up to you at home. And if you are not a fan of spicy at all, you can always just add in more bell pepper. Maybe get a green bell pepper in there to add that color, and you can take out the heat. So similar idea to the bell pepper here. I've kind of cut this into two sections that I can flatten out a little bit and make them easier to cut. You may have to break a little bit of the bottom there since it likes to curl in. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut it into fine strips and then run my knife back through to get that nice clean dice. So in terms of nutrition, these peppers are giving us a lot of good nutrients. We are getting a bunch of vitamin C, which is great for our immune systems. Keeping that in check is going to be really helpful. Your body's going to appreciate it. And we're also going to get some other vitamins and minerals from these. We'll get fiber for one thing, and fiber is going to be in all of the vegetables that we'll be eating today. Fiber is great because it can help us maintain healthy cholesterol, blood sugar control. It can help us feel satisfied and full after we eat a meal. So having vegetables will make you feel full while eating less calories. So if you're working on weight management, vegetables are a really great thing to add in. So we've got our peppers chopped up, those nice bright red and green colors. In my skillet over here, I've got 2 teaspoons of canola oil that I'll be using today. You are welcome to use a vegetable oil of your choice. And we're going to set the burner to a medium-high heat. And what we'll do is we'll give the skillet a little bit of an opportunity to heat that oil all the way through, and then we will add in our bell pepper and poblano pepper. What we'll do is we'll cook them for about 3 minutes. We're basically looking for them to become crisp, tender. What that means is whenever we have a vegetable here, they're pretty crisp. There's a little bit of stiffness to it. It's got some resistance. You know, if you snap it, you hear that noise. And tender, of course, means that it's soft. And if we are able to poke it with a fork, that fork will go right through. We're looking for the balance between being crisp and being tender, so somewhere in the middle. You may start to see the vegetables brown a little bit as you cook them. Again, we're not trying to get it too soft because we're going to actually cook this with some other ingredients later on. So we're just kind of starting that process. So I've heated my oil up. I'm going to shake the skillet around a little bit and make sure that oil is coating everything. And I'll just pick my cutting board up and dump this right on in. And then using a spatula or a spoon, go ahead and stir that around so that the peppers are in contact with the skillet. We want them on one even layer so they can all cook together. And for the next couple minutes, we'll just stir this periodically to make sure that things are mixed around evenly. While that starts to cook, let's prepare our next ingredient. We're going to be using green onions today. So I've gone ahead and rinsed these so they are ready to go. Now with the green onions, we don't need these white bulb parts at the end. So the first cut I'm going to make is just taking my knife and cutting off those white bulb parts. The rest of it though, that nice green stalk, that's exactly what we're looking for. And once again, we're going to cut this into a very, very fine dice. We want it to be small pieces to be dispensed throughout what we're eating. So taking my knife, I'm going to take my hand and just kind of guide the knife along here. You'll notice I'm curling my fingers so that as the knife goes down, if I happen to come into contact with my hand, all I'm going to do is get some skin off of my knuckle. I won't accidentally hit my fingertip. So that's important. You'll see a lot of people do that kind of grip. And I'm just rocking the knife and slowly moving the green onions closer to it as we chop this up. And what we're aiming to get here is 1/3 of a cup of green onions. Okay, that looks like about 1/3 of a cup to me, but let's measure it and make sure. All right, yep, just about. So we have 1/3 of a cup here. I'm going to turn back over here, stir our peppers around a little bit, make sure they're not sticking to the pan. Now, if you've ever been at a Mexican restaurant and someone orders fajitas and they bring them out and they're sizzling and you can smell that aroma in the air, that's exactly what this smells like right now. I can smell the peppers. I can actually smell a little bit of that heat. I can smell the sweetness of the red bell pepper. It's a very, very nice combination of smells. So these are cooking over there. They're getting about where we want. What we're going to do is once those are finished, we're going to add in our chopped green onions. Give it a stir and just let the green onions come into contact with the heat for a brief moment. We're not going to cook them too much. They're pretty sensitive to that. And once we've done that, we're going to combine it with some of our other ingredients. So let's talk about what else is going into the recipe. We're going to be making use of beans today. Now you can use black beans, which is in the title of the recipe. I'm actually using a blend of beans. It's black beans, pinto beans, and kidney beans. I just like the different textures and flavors that those bring, but that is entirely up to you. I do recommend trying to select a low sodium canned bean. It's going to be good for our heart health, keeping the salt and sodium values a little bit lower. This is Kroger's Simple Truth brand. It's a little bit lower in sodium, so I like to pick that one. We'll also be adding some canned corn to it today, just 1/3 of a cup. Similar idea here. If you can find corn without added sugar and with less sodium, it's going to be healthier for us. So these are looking nice and good. I can tell that they are that crisp tender that we're looking for. Again, they're giving a little bit of resistance, but they've softened somewhat. So let's go ahead and add in our 1/3 of a cup of green onions, and we'll mix that in with everything. So what I'm going to actually do now is turn off the heat and move this skillet off of there. So our next step is going to be to combine these ingredients with our beans and our corn and our salsa. So in a medium-sized bowl, doesn't have to be anything too big, we are going to add in our beans. Now this is 3/4 cup worth of beans. So your can will have a little more than that. This will be about half a can of beans if you get a standard size can. So 3/4 cup of beans going in. This is great because this is our plant-based source of protein that we're having today. So beans have a lot of fiber in them, but they also pack a pretty considerable amount of protein. We'll add in our 1/3 cup of yellow corn there. Okay. Now let's take our vegetables that we have sauteed, and I'm just going to use the spatula and scoop them right on into the bowl. Man, that smells good. I did a test run of this recipe yesterday, of course, to make sure that everything would be tasty enough to show everyone today. It is excellent. I'm pretty excited to get to eat these again. I got to have them for dinner last night. All right, so we're going to add 2 tablespoons of salsa verde. Now, if you are feeling really ambitious, you could look up some recipes for maybe making your own salsa verde. We're going to keep it simple today, though, because that's always the goal. So this is just some store-bought salsa verde, nothing too fancy about it. So we're just looking for that green salsa. And we're going to add in 2 tablespoons on top of our mixture here. And that's going to give us some nice flavor whenever we bite into these queso wraps. Okay, so go ahead and mix this and combine it. We want that salsa verde to have a little bit of flavor on the beans, on our bell pepper, on our poblano pepper, on the corn. So everything should get a little piece of that flavor. So mix that around, and I mean, when we're talking about making healthy food, you can look at this bowl and we've literally just assembled a rainbow in a bowl here between the corn and the peppers. Everything looks excellent. You know you're getting a lot of good vitamins and minerals when you see all that color. So we've mixed that around. What we're going to do now is we're going to get our wraps ready. Let me get some of these green onions out of the cutting board. So I'm going to be making use of whole wheat tortillas today. There are a lot of options for this. You can use other types of wraps. You could honestly put this in like pita bread if you wanted to. You could have it as a salad topping. But I like the convenience of the wraps. I know a lot of us are on the go. We're taking lunch to work, and it can be really convenient to have something like this. The reason I'm using whole wheat wraps is whole wheat, 100% whole wheat wraps are going to have more fiber in them. They're going to have more protein in them, and they're going to have more B vitamins as well. So compared to just a regular white flour wrap, this is going to be healthier. So that's why we're doing this. This is what you can look for down here at the bottom. You should be able to see where it'll say 100% whole wheat. So you may see wheat wraps, but we're looking for 100% whole wheat or whole grain. That lets us know that every single part of this is packed with nutrition. Now, in terms of heating these up, you can heat them up on the skillet briefly. If you have some lingering heat on your pan, you may be able to just set them on there. What we're trying to do is heat it so that it becomes a little softer and a little easier to bend around. This will prevent the tortilla from breaking whenever we try to fold it. I'm going to use the microwave behind me real quick and just pop them in there for about 15 seconds. So this recipe will make 4 servings, so you can get 4 wraps out of it. For simplicity's sake today, I'm just going to make 2 in front of you and cook them on the stove just to show you what that process looks like. But in total, you'll be able to get 4 full wraps out of the recipe. Okay, so now you can see these guys are kind of doing the wave a little bit. They're a lot more malleable, a lot softer. It makes it easier to work with. That's why if you'll see people steaming the tortillas at different restaurants, it prevents them from breaking whenever we're trying to fold it. And like I mentioned, I have a tendency to overfill my things. So using a spoon, we're going to scoop out some of this mixture. And what we're aiming for, if you've ever done burritos before, we're going to picture the center of the tortilla and aim just a little below it. We're going to spread our filling horizontally along that center line, just right below it. This will allow us to fold it up well. So I'm going to get a couple scoops of this, keeping in mind that this filling is designed for 4 of these. So I'm only going to use part of the filling on camera today. I'm just trying to get a nice mixture of the beans, of the peppers, so that each bite is equally exciting. Okay, and I will leave it up to you to test the strength of your tortilla. I'm going to try to be a little reserved today so that I don't explode it on camera, but you can try to put in more than that. If I'm off camera, I'm packing this in even more. Now, I talked about this being a queso wrap, which means that I promised everyone cheese. So of course there is cheese involved. Cheese is one of my favorite foods. It is so tasty. Of course, with cheese comes sodium, comes a decent amount of calories. So it is something that we want to moderate how much we have. It does have some nutritional benefits. We get calcium and we get protein from it. So it's a good thing to incorporate into recipes. We just want to make sure we're not going overboard on it. So what we've done is we've established a really nice base of healthy vegetables, really wholesome food. And then we get to do a little bit of cheese on top of it to add that flavor. So I'm actually going to spread this out just a little wider. I don't want it stacked too tall for this part. And what we're going to do to keep our portions in check, we are going to do 1/4 cup of cheese per wrap. So that's a standard serving of cheese. It's about 1 ounce. So I would recommend using a measuring cup. That way you don't accidentally overdo it. So 1/4 cup of cheese, we'll just sprinkle that on top. This cheese is going to melt and get so gooey and delicious whenever we cook these. It's really, really fun to bite into. Just has a great flavor, and it really mixes with the salsa verde and the spice of the poblano pepper nicely. In terms of the type of cheese, you are really welcome to use any kind you'd like. I would recommend using Monterey Jack, or if you are at the store and you see a Mexican cheese blend or like a quesadilla cheese blend, that's going to work well too. Those are usually comprised of Monterey Jack with a couple other different types. This is a blend as well. It's just a Mexican cheese blend, and I think it adds some nice flavor variety. So in terms of folding these, we have set the filling in just a little bit below the center line. We are going to grab from the bottom of the tortilla and fold up to the middle, just like that. We're going to grab our sides and fold them in towards the center. And then we are going to roll the whole thing and press down on it. And now we've got our little tortilla queso wrap that'll be ready to cook here in just a moment. Let's try to repeat the process over here. Now this second tortilla I grabbed, I'm looking at it and I'm noticing it looks a little smaller. So we may have some issues with this, but that's okay. If something falls out of your wrap during cooking, just let it cook. You can spoon it back up later once you're done and add it into, or you can just eat it on the side. And actually, it looks like we might be okay. I might have lucked out. So the next thing I want to do is we're going to cook it on the skillet again. If you have cooking spray, what I'd recommend doing is just giving a quick spray to the top and bottom of each of these wraps. So just a quick spray and a quick spray. That way we're going to be able to cook them nicely, get that little browned edge on the side of it. If you don't have cooking spray, you have a couple options. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little more canola oil here. And I'm going to make use of an oil brush. If you don't have an oil brush, you could use a little paper towel and dab at it. You could use a spoon and just kind of wipe it around. It's up to you. But with the oil brush, I'm going to dip it in here and just kind of paint along the tops and bottoms of these. So we're not trying to soak it in oil. I'm not looking to deep fry it. But if I give it just a little bit of a coating of that oil, it'll help it brown and be really crispy and nice once we get to eat it. So I've done that. If your skillet's looking dry, you may want to put just a tiny bit of cooking spray or a little more oil on top of it. Mine's okay, and I've greased up the tops and bottoms of these, so I'm not too worried about it. So we'll put it back over a medium heat. I mentioned if you have a panini press or a sandwich press, you can just put these in there and cook them that way until they're nice and brown on the outside, and you'll be good to go. If you don't have one of those, we've got some good alternatives. So hopefully you can see my skillet clearly here. What I'm going to do is carefully place these in the middle. And I'm going to cook 2 at a time because that keeps it a little more controlled for me. You're welcome to go for all 4 if you want to. And then using a heavy skillet, I'm going to, this is clean, so the bottom of it is nice and clean. I'm not worried about it coming into contact with the food. I'm going to literally just take this and set it on top of the wraps, which may look a little silly in practice. You can also take a spatula and just apply pressure to it and hold it down there while they're cooking. This is going to press all those ingredients together. The cheese is going to melt, and it's going to make it kind of grill without us having a sandwich press, a panini press, or anything like that. So this is my workaround. It actually works really, really well. We're going to cook it for maybe 1 to 2 minutes, depending on the temperature of your stovetop. You should keep a close eye on it. We're not looking to burn it. We just want it to get to that nice golden brown. Once we get there, we'll remove the skillet on top, take a spatula, and just flip each one of them over and repeat the process on the other side. Typically, the flip side of it will cook much faster than the front side, or the first side that you cook. This is because the skillets had more time to heat up, and the wrap itself has heated up as the heat moves through it. So keep that in mind, that the second side of it tends to go a little faster, so keep a closer eye on it. So I got a gas stovetop and things tend to move pretty quickly. So I'm going to be cautious and take a peek at it and just see how they are doing. Because like I said, it has a tendency to get very, very hot very fast. So I'll move this over here. Using my spatula, I'm going to just kind of take a peek at them. Okay, I'm going to give them just a little longer. We're getting pretty close. So again, if you can imagine a panini that you've had before, if you saw the image at the beginning of today's presentation, we want that nice crispy brown side on it, or like a quesadilla as well when those are cooked nicely. That's what we're looking to do. And by putting a little bit of oil on top with the brush or using cooking spray, we're providing some oil so that the tortilla won't burn, but it'll get that nice brown instead. Okay, so we gave it a little more time. Let's get the spatula here and flip these over. Oh yeah, that's exactly where we want it to be. Let me see if I can show you this one. I'm going to try not to burn myself. You can see it's got that nice brown on it there. That's exactly what we're aiming for. So let's see if we can get it again on the opposite side. So I'll put that skillet back on there to weigh it down. And we'll give it just a minute or 2. Now, in terms of storage, you can keep these in the refrigerator for about 3 to 4 days. So this is a great thing to, on a Sunday, if you're trying to meal prep for the week, you can make these super, super fast. line 4 of them up, or if you even want to double up and make 8 of them, you could if you want to share some with your family or other people who may be living with you, or even if you want to bring them into work and treat somebody. So they're really, really simple to make. The ingredients are also very affordable as well. We're buying a couple simple produce items, making use of canned vegetables. It keeps the bill a lot lower, which is excellent. And nutritionally, they are very healthy for us because they're packed with vegetables. So I mentioned that second side tends to cook faster. So we'll go ahead and pull that. And I have a plate here. Okay. So before I cut into them, I want to try to show you again. You see that nice browning on there? That was exactly what we're going for. So I'm happy to see that that worked out. And if you want to make them look a little tastier, you can cut them open. When you eat them, it might actually be nice to keep them wrapped like this just because it keeps everything contained. But if you're trying to show off and look a little fancy, you can certainly make that cut inside. And take a look at that. Hopefully you can see those pops of colors, all the vegetables inside of there, contributing to that wonderful nutritional medley that we've created. So this recipe has a lot going on for it. We've got tons of healthy fiber coming from the 2 types of peppers, the corn, the beans, the green onions, and we've got extra fiber because we made use of 100% whole wheat tortillas. We have plant-based protein helping us out from the beans, but we're getting a boost in protein from the cheese that we've added here. And our whole wheat tortillas have a little bit of extra protein as well, which is really nice. So this comes out to be a really, really balanced lunch in terms of all the nutritional benefits and things that are happening here. Serving size wise, they are about 300 calories a piece. So you may just eat one of them and maybe have some fruit on the side or complement it with another item if you're interested. Or if you are eating a little more calories, you may want to do 2 of them. If you're more active or you're a larger person, 2 may be the appropriate serving size. What we'll do after today's presentation is we'll send out a copy of the recipe along with that nutrition information. So you can take a look at it and try to see for yourself how it might fit into your daily dietary pattern. But overall, lots of protein, lots of fiber, and lots of vitamins and minerals. And taking a look at the time there, we managed to do it in, about 20 minutes. So it's very, very easy to move through and it's really tasty. This is definitely a kid-friendly recipe as well. The peppers are very, very mild, so it's not too spicy. I think the flavors of just some vegetables and that cheese is something that's really simple. I know when I was a kid, I was, cheese quesadilla. That was what I wanted, plain cheese, nothing too complicated. But if you've got kids at home, you can probably sneak some of these vegetables in. They'll still enjoy it and they'll get some extra nutrition as well. So highly recommend it. So let's take a look at some of the questions that have come through during the presentation. I want to make sure I have time to address those. Okay. I see some people commenting that they're big fans of cheese and that they would definitely overdo it. So I'm guilty of that as well sometimes. Some of my favorite foods have cheese in them, but remember that we can enjoy it responsibly by just having moderated amounts of it. This has cheese in it and it's delicious, but it's a perfectly reasonable amount and we're balancing out with vegetables. Similar idea if you have pizza or something like that. There are things we can work with to make it a healthier balance, and then you still get to enjoy cheese. Lots of people saying it looks delicious. I'm glad it does. It smells so good. I was hoping that you'd be able to kind of see how tasty it was, even though it's all wrapped up. Okay, yeah, someone commenting about the poblano peppers. Someone thought that they were spicier than they were. And it's kind of confusing because there are a lot of peppers out there. You can actually look up the scale that peppers are ranked on based on how hot they are. Like I mentioned, poblanos are actually a little more mild than jalapenos, so not quite as spicy as a jalapeno. If you are a fan of spicy, though, you want to take it up to serrano pepper or, beyond. I'm not going to dabble in that, but I encourage you to kind of twist the recipe to be what will match your flavor preferences. I know you could definitely do a lot of fun things with maybe a spicier salsa if you wanted to, or using that hotter pepper. All right. Okay, some people talking about the skillet trick there. Yeah, so very, very simple way to go about just weighing it down and doing the panini press. Makes it nice and easy to do. I see a comment about turning off the burner, and I double checked it. I appreciate the comment. The burner is off. I'm not sure if it just looks like it's on there, but there's no gas coming out of that right now. But I appreciate you watching my back just in case. All right, let me check the Q&A because it looks like some questions popped up in there. Okay, so someone commented that it looks great and they want to know where the recipe will be posted at. So everyone who attended today or registered is going to get an email. The email is going to have a couple things. It'll have a link to the recording of what we did today. It'll have a copy of the recipe and the nutrition information, and it'll also have a link to a short survey. If you've got the time, it takes about 2 minutes to fill out that survey. You can let us know what you thought of today's demonstration. We are always looking for feedback. If you've got recipe ideas, thoughts for cool things we could do, we would love to hear it. We're always trying to improve our programs. Additionally, if you are interested in seeing some of our other programs, we offer a variety of things. We've actually got guided meditation and yoga happening tomorrow at 12 p.m. So that's a great session for people to catch. If you're interested, we can add you to our mailing list. If you want to just send us an email at edws@gsu.edu, we'll get you on the mailing list. You'll be sure to receive weekly emails for all the fun stuff that we do. We do cooking demonstrations, yoga and meditation. We have mental health focused activities. In September, we're really excited because we hired a new person for our team, Tony Pelot. She is our new health and wellness coordinator. She's an exercise physiologist. So we're about to start having virtual workouts again. We're going to have office stretch breaks. She's going to actually lead us on some walks on campus for us to get physical activity in. So a lot of fun stuff is about to happen, and we're really excited for it. So if you want to stay up to date on those types of activities, again, send us an email at edws@gsu.edu, and we'll be sure to get you on our mailing list. With all that being said, let me do one more check of the chat so I make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, some more nice comments. I really appreciate everyone. Like I said, the feedback is really helpful for our department, but it's also just nice for me to see, and it's great to know that people get a lot of enjoyment out of this. So keep an eye out for that email. We'll be sending the recipe along with that follow-up survey. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.